On today's episode of Dear Frannie, James and I take a step back to talk about where we would actually start the franchise development process. James is in the thick of this right now with his clients, and to no one's surprise, budgets are tight across every brand that we're working with. So when you're finally ready to pull the trigger, where should you start? Even seasoned brands are going to learn something today because this is the biggest missed opportunity, no matter where you are in your scale, inside sales. Let's jump into why, if it doesn't start here, every other dollar you spend is wasted. Welcome to Dear Frannie. I'm your host, Katherine LeBlanc, a franchise growth and marketing advisor who is available for hire for all of your growth and marketing needs. And my co-host, James.
Hey, Catherine, I don't have a tagline like that. So I'm a lawyer turned general counsel turned restaurant executive turned CEO turned private equity operator. Now I'm a turnaround specialist and I build franchise systems. And I guess you can hire me. Just click on LinkedIn and DM me with a lot of money.
There you go. That's an idea for LinkedIn. Let's get a Cash App going on that.
Why wouldn't we? Let's run some revenue through LinkedIn, right?
Yeah, I love it.
We need a sponsor. Yeah, we need sponsors. So putting it out there, I'll wear the logo. They probably want you to wear it. You can talk intelligently about it. We'll put a full backdrop behind it. Just throwing it out there. Hey, LinkedIn, if you're looking to sponsor our rates, get in early. Get in early.
Our rates are high, but they'll be higher next year.
That's right. What are we talking about today?
We are jumping right into our Dear Frannie question, James. It is, I am ready to jet fuel my franchise sales growth. Where do I start? So we love talking about franchise sales and how to build out your franchise brand. And that is exactly the audience that we're talking to, people who are in the messy middle of growth, who really can't see the forest through the trees. And we're going to help you see a little bit of the forest. So James, before I get on my soapbox, because I do have a soapbox.
I know you do.
Tell me if you, yes, and you do too. And you're doing this for some of your clients. You're starting from the ground floor of how do you build a franchise sales program that is going to be sustainable and take you to the next level. So where would you start?
It's so funny, right? When we started in the business, 16 years ago for me, 17 maybe. It was really a Rolodex business and franchise dev, right? You hired a franchise dev person who had a Rolodex, right? And for the kids out there, there was actually a thing where you flip through and it had letters and you pull out a card of a contact. So, and now that seems to have gone the way of the VHS tape. But, I think it becomes a combination of a variety of initiatives that really all center around, sadly, budget, right? So in my experience, it's not a cheap thing to do, but it depends on your, investment thresholds and willingness. So, you can always do the internal sort of outreach, which is, I always recommend, starting with your fans, right? So you can advertise in store, you can advertise through your customers, you can advertise through your employees, it's a great opportunity. See what Chipotle back in the day, where you can incentivize your managers to have opportunities to, we call it OYO, own your own. So I always start with, what is the most inexpensive and comfortable sort of step into franchise sales. And that's always going to be the people that, come to your stores and work in your stores, family, friends, initiatives. I think when you move outside of sort of your four walls and your your connects, that's when it gets just a little bit scientific nowadays. And so you as the marketing person, I would say, franchise sales is really brand marketing on a level. So I would ask you, hey, I want to get out of my four walls. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do, Catherine? You're the marketing.
Well, but I would pause though, because where I see brands, and again, I think that our industry has kind of created a cottage industry where this has happened. But I think that pausing first on an inside sales program, as you just described, is the first step. And it's a step that requires discipline because you have to be just like anything in marketing, consistency and frequency of message. And so you have to get that franchisee message out in all of the places that you can inside your four walls. And then it is your fans and your employees who are going to be your first people that are in the brand. And that's where it should start because they believe in your product, they believe in you, and they're ready to bring it to their wherever they are, right? The next town over or whatnot. And
Yeah, I mean,
if you start,
no, I think, okay, yes, right? And we can drill completely on that. But where I get not necessarily frustrated, but I think owners can become misled is when you start outside spend initiatives, right? So
yeah, no, and that's true. But if you only focus on outside spend initiatives, you lose
I
I
agree.
think what the
Totally agree.
lowest hanging fruit is, right?
Totally agree.
And what I see is brands then over index on that external pull. And so now all of your franchise prospects are coming from that external pull, which does become more and more expensive every single year, whether it's because of your own marketing spend or because of the spend in the market. And so if you establish that good, disciplined inside sales program, you have the messaging in your four walls, you have a referral program for employees to start, but then your franchisees, and then you are encouraging your customers to inquire about franchising, that should give you a base for growth. And look, growth is and if you listen to me a lot, you're sick of hearing me say this, but marketing is momentum. And so when you get some momentum going with that inside sales program, it greases the wheels for that external sales program. And so then, James, to your point, when you then switch to that external sales program, where should you start? What should you spend on? What should your budget be? And how do you get it going? Now, your budget is going to need to be a lot bigger if you don't have that inside sales program going because you need to create all of the momentum. And that's where I think, you and I have had some conversations around like, well, why is it so expensive? And why is that demand creation so expensive? Because you'll hear from IFA and franchising organizations all around of how in demand franchising is. It is a great path to realizing the American dream of owning your own future. But we have saturated the market with the number of people who are trying to fill a pipeline of potential franchisees. And then we have also oversaturated the market on marketing messaging. And so standing out is harder, and standing out or attracting people on reality is harder because the messages that you see right now from people trying to fill that pipeline of franchisee prospects all say something like a simple operation, low cost to operate, and things like, semi-absenteeism.
Reminds me of, you ever watch like on like the World Cup recently? Whoever's doing whatever marketing or ad agency is doing the pharmaceutical ads, right? They're all the
Mm-hmm.
same. They're all the same, right?
Yes,
Like
they
every
are. Mm-hmm.
pharmaceutical ad is the same. And I think you've nailed a little bit of a trend in our industry where whoever is advising or pushing these franchise sales initiatives, it's all the same buzzwords, right? And it's becoming
Yes,
noise, in all honesty, right? And
I
so I
agree.
think, just
Yeah.
to back up a little bit, because I do think we should spend some time for our small and emerging franchise brands. Like the four wall like ground game is real, and we come back to it, and I love it. I think that's where you need to kind of play for a good amount of time, because what's happening is, and I'll get on my soapbox, like all of these franchise brokers, all of these organizations, insert letters, will tell you that there's all this growth opportunity if you spend and go out to the market to drive franchise leads in, right? Like, let's be really clear, franchise leads are people or small businesses 90% of the time.
That's right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole like Mumbo world, and kudos to the Flynn Group. They're like a king in it. Kudos to Jim Bayless at Capital Spring when they did aggregation of a variety of franchise brands. That happens. The Mumbos are out there and they're doing a great job. Right? That's a wonderful thing if you can get it.
Mm-hmm.
But let's be really honest. Leads are people, right? Leads are
That's right.
people. These are small businesses. And so quit groups and brokers and marketers going to franchise saying, spend all your money and we'll give you leads, right? It's a ground
Yeah.
game. And I think if we can push back on the Fran Dev initiative of like, you're not going to go sign the 20 store deal out of the gate. You shouldn't sign the 20
Right.
store deal out of the gate. You're probably
Shouldn't.
not going to
Yes.
open those 20 stores anyway.
That's right.
Like, let's go to the, like, you should franchise with the people who know you the best.
That's
Secondly,
right. Yeah.
it leads to the right franchisee persona, right? On a level, they
Yes.
at least identify with the brand. So, there's a push pull in the industry of like, look, everybody give Katherine your money. She's really good at what she does. But at the same point in time, like, it's like the alchemist. Like you can go all the way around the world and it's right there in
Right.
your stores. That's my sort of vibe. And I'd love to start pounding that, right? Because there's too much go outside and go find
Yeah.
all these other people
Right.
who are out there floating around when, the people coming in your stores are the people who are more likely than not to want
To be
to grow your
successful.
brand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and that's where, from the marketing layer to add to that is that brand and the brand strategy. And I recently had a conversation about, how do we think about the franchise sale? So you're selling $1 million high ticket, high consideration piece versus the $12 hamburger that is not that and requires a completely different marketing program, right? And so first and foremost, table stakes, you have to have a good brand, which means that you have to have people coming through the door. You have to have good numbers, right? We've talked ad nauseum about, profitability first, but you have to have good reviews. You have to have people talking, well about you in the community so that is your foundation of your franchise sales brand. But then on top of that, when we talk about branding, what we're talking about is what is your position? What is your unique thing that you offer that nobody else offers? You have to have that for your franchise brand as well. And so
Sure.
is that, a lot of brands, it's the proprietary recipes, if we're talking about restaurants, it's, when I was at Painting with a Twist, it was our library of trademarked artwork that you couldn't get anywhere else. And so what is the unique positioning? And part of that unique positioning should be about what type of franchisee is going to be most successful with you. And that's where we talk about those personas. And the challenge with that is that the leads aren't plentiful for that message because that's on purpose. You don't want the leads to be plentiful. You want people opting in to belong to your
Yeah,
organization because when those people opt in, they have more skin in the game to be
for
successful,
sure.
right?
You're exact. You're
I was talking to a friend the other day, and he had bought a franchise, and it was a service brand. And when I asked him about the process, it was so storybook, and I was so upset that this was still happening. Around, I was sold semi-absenteeism. I went with this big platform company because it, supposedly had the support that was needed. But there was no passion behind the brand or the passion behind, why I'm bringing this product to market. It was, I am looking for a passive almost income that, I can run while running my own, having a full-time job. And it failed within the year, right? And failed, right, is strong, but there was a desire from the franchisee to not continue to invest in the growth of the location because he in the sales process he wasn't sold the right thing. And so,
Yeah.
yes, they hit their numbers to open, but now they have a closure on the books, which
Yeah.
is detrimental, especially for burgeoning brands. And
Well, you look,
so,
look,
I
let,
think
let, let
that
me let me jump in.
yeah.
You nail two things, right? One, I know your
Mhm.
answer on this, and I'm going to ask it in a minute. So I'm going to come back to that question. But like at the end of the day, be wary and skeptical of the positioning that comes from franchise sales relative to passive ownership
Yeah.
and or
Mhm.
passive income. And that's just straight life advice, right? Like I haven't met the business that is profitable via passivity. Like, and
Yeah.
so why we are allowing as an industry, franchising as an industry, that to be a tagline, I think is in and of itself dangerous. And come at me on LinkedIn if you want, but I don't want passive owners. I don't want,
Yeah. Right.
people who are seeking passive income. I want people who are passionate and want to run a business. Now, my question to you would be, And I don't know that I've ever seen this in any of the organizations I've been a part of and or run. So it's probably my marketing frustration. But would you recommend that, let's say you're my CMO of my brand that's going to roll out franchising, and I have all of the elements met that we discussed ad nauseum for being franchise ready?
Yeah.
How should franchise sales, franchise dev be a function of marketing?
Yes. Well, yes and no, right? So marketing supports sales. So the sales function needs to operate on its own and needs to go out, and sales, I think, is a skill. And yes, you can develop a process so that somebody going through that, you can standardize the process, but the actual individual salesperson, the actual act of selling, I think, is a skill, and it needs to be treated as such. Marketing is a support to sales. And the way that marketing supports sales is by saying, what channels do we need to be in? What messaging do we need to have in there? And how do we facilitate getting you the materials that you need to then sell what needs to happen? And so while I don't necessarily believe that marketing, CMO should run the entirety of the Fran Dev department, I think that's fine. I think CMOs can do it. But the Fran Dev department should have a marketing function within it and not depend on a consumer focused team to provide them with the support that they need. Whether that Fran Dev person sits on the marketing team or sits on the Fran Dev team with the dotted line to the marketer, I don't care. But what is missing from our franchise development process is we have a bunch of salespeople running marketing, and they're great at sales. Are not great at marketing. And so then what you do is you bolt on these agencies that then run tactics, and they don't. There's no value in educating the CDO or the VP of franchise sales on marketing from the agency perspective, and so they don't. And so then what happens is CEO says, we don't have enough leads. CDO tells the agency, we don't have enough leads. Agency goes to Google to buy more leads. And none of it is qualified. None of it is a pipeline that is warmed to then close, right? And so then you just get 100 leads to then get 10 sales to then get, 7 franchisees open. And what you could do instead is build the brand, build the message, and then that pipeline is warmed so that you're getting, 20 leads that then become 10 that then become 7 open. So
So
no, I don't think marketing.
Here's my pushback. All right. Inevitably, the marketer wants to be unaccountable. Inevitably.
Yeah,
Like
that's
the
yeah.
the marketer, the marketing
Mhm.
department always wants to be unaccountable for measurable metrics associated with any type of top line and or bottom line structure. They just do.
Yep.
Right. And that drives me nuts
I don't,
about
I wouldn't
marketing.
say, okay, I wouldn't go that far to say they don't want to be held accountable, but I'll put my
You
caveats later.
you 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 type all your asterisks into the LinkedIn comments below.
Okay.
I haven't met the marketing person that wants to be
Mhm.
accountable for metrics associated with the initiatives of marketing. And there are a litany of rungs on the ladder that the marketer at any level climbs. It's point at ops, it's point at
Mhm.
finance, it's point at trend, it's
Mhm.
point I have never sat in a board meeting and I've
Mhm.
never sat in an executive meeting where the marketer has been accountable for anything. However, I do think that my advice would be sales, which is a different function than marketing, right? But hey,
Mhm.
franchise sales, franchise dev, our brand messaging for franchising sales has to be aligned and
Yep.
coherent with our marketing positioning for the brand. And so there needs to be significant marketing support and alignment in the go to market in this other customer,
Right.
right? So, I
Mhm.
don't see that happening too much. I don't know that I see it happening enough. And I think that that's where we get like this sort of confusion, if you will, from the prospective franchisee to the actual franchisee and implementation of brand, right? So,
Yeah.
those are my two hot takes. Is one, show me the marketer who wants to own the metrics. And then two, the franchise dev, franchise sales, and marketing have to align in
Yeah.
brand messaging and positioning.
Right. Well, and to your point, it's a different customer, right? So the marketer has to approach it with a different customer in mind
For
than
sure.
the consumer that you're selling the brand to. I mean, on your point on accountability, like I hear you. I've been in the meetings where I have been held accountable to specific numbers, and I've
Yeah,
been the
I was
person in the
there.
seat saying,
Just
well,
kidding.
"This is," and then yeah, and as you saw, I'm also the person that says like, "Okay, here are the extenuating circumstances, whether it's external or internal." And I think that the challenge, like, and I've been in organizations where it is a finger pointing, and the fact is that it's a team effort, and we should all be held accountable to the team goals. And so, what am I doing to row the boat in the right direction? What is the ops team doing to row the boat in the right direction? What is IT doing, et cetera? And where I struggle with that accountability statement is that there are times that the marketing team is held accountable to certain activities that there's only so much you can do to set people up for success, right?
Right.
And so it's like, okay, well, are we being held accountable to the right things? And look, I believe for sure marketing should impact your new traffic count. It should impact how much people are coming back to your locations, and it should impact how much people are buying in your locations.
Agreed.
Those are the three metrics that marketing can impact, and we should absolutely be impacting those. But as far as being held accountable to like the overall goals, I do think it's a team effort, and there needs to be some recognition around, okay, what did we do to all row the boat together?
And and that is brilliantly stated, and I will push back on my own point. The ultimate accountability lies with the CEO, and he or she is
Mhm.
responsible for building that team momentum accountability. So it isn't
Yeah.
department accountabilities, it's everybody at the table. We owe each other and the
Yeah.
organization the commitment to achieving whatever initiatives, and everybody's got to pull their weight. So ultimately it becomes the owner or the CEO's, burden to bear, and it's a leadership failure if there is finger pointing. But nonetheless, an opportunity to take a shot at the cool people in marketing I will never pass. So
Like
yeah, look,
I hear it, and I have been in the seat. I've
that's
been in
why
the
y'all
seat
make
that
all
has.
the money. That's why y'all make all the money. All the
That's
marketing
right.
people always make all the
That's right.
money.
We're the richest. That's right.
Yes, so rich.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So I think that what we're coming down to is, or at least I'll give you my takeaways for today. Number
Yeah,
one
well, before
is.
you do, right? I think we to answer our franchisee question.
Mhm.
If you are an emerging brand, you're just start with your home base. Start with your home base and build that, right? So that's the answer to the question for me today.
Yeah.
It's not go out and spend $100,000 or go take some debt on to grow hard and fast.
Mhm.
Start with your home base. And Catherine, I can speak to this. Catherine is this my plug? Like hire the woman, she'll build it for you and just execute it. That's what I would say.
Well, thanks for the plug, James. And I'm gonna tack on to what you said, because I think the other thing that gets said in this industry it is okay to build slow. It is
Amen.
okay to have slow growth. And
Yep.
when you do have slow growth, you learn so much that then helps you have fast growth in the future. So your first 50 should not happen in the first year of
Yep.
you franchising. And if it does, you're doing it wrong. And if it's happening all external, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, I love it. And look, I'll hit you with my really one takeaway from what you shared. Aside from marketing is momentum, we need to have that trademarked. But consistency in marketing, consistency in sales, consistency in initiatives is the only way you're going to see any type of trend or metrics, right?
Mhm.
So, don't stop if you have success, don't stop if you don't have success. There has to be a commitment to a certain time frame of a clear
Right, right.
initiative. And if it's, hey, we're going to offer franchising and we're going to start with our employees, our families, and our customers, here's the 2 or 3 programs we're going to run over an extended amount of time. And that be patient in it. To your point, you know, if you open 50 franchises and you're not ready, it's going to be a different problem. So
Yeah, big
consistency
pharma.
and from my standpoint. What about you?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, similarly, my takeaway is build brand first, right? And that's all the things
Yeah.
that you just said. Be consistent and frequent with your message, but
Yep.
understand that that message has to resonate to your brand, and
Yep.
getting specific about what you are offering different than the fried chicken, franchise down the street. And that helps you attract the right leads instead of the quantity of the leads that you want. And
Mm.
then, the other soapbox that, I've been on for a couple of years now is have a marketer in Fran Dev, whether it's a consultant like me, I'm for hire, or, you have a marketing manager within it, or the CMO has some accountability in the Fran Dev department so that resources get allocated there. And then I think the third takeaway I have is if you are an emerging brand, if you're in the middle of this, if you're in the thick of this, the thing that you are missing is your inside sales program. So build your inside sales program, get disciplined around that, and then start layering on top of it.
Couldn't have said it better. Hire the
There
lady.
you go.
All right. Again,
Yes.
I'd like to reiterate, we are available for sponsorship. We'll wear merch.
James is acting like he's going to get a cut of the sponsorship.
Like, yeah, not that. Not. I just want to wear some merch. I get nothing other than time.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us for this episode of Dear Frannie. If this episode sounded familiar, you are not behind, you are right on time. Please subscribe to our channel or share this with somebody who needs to hear it.